What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are basically going to continue our coverage over the Squadron Supreme team from the early 2000s. And let me explain why I say the early 2000s. So if you're new to Marvel Comics, basically the Squadron Supreme team has been around since the 1960s. It was Marvel asking a question like, what would happen if the Avengers had a fight against the Justice League? Now, of course, Marvel couldn't use those DC characters like Superman, Batman, and the Flash. And so what they did instead was they basically made the Squadron Supreme. And they are characters who represent characters like Superman, Batman, Flash, and so on and so on. Now, here's the thing though. The Squadron Supreme team usually comes from a different universe in Marvel's multiverse. And so there have been different versions of the Squadron Supreme over the years. Now, in the early 2000s, they did hire a writer known as JMS, the same guy who wrote Spider-Man in the early 2000s and Thor, to come over and rework the origin of the Squadron Supreme. And that led into Supreme Power. Now, once Marvel writers who all kind of helped rework the origin of the Squadron Supreme were finished with all the books, they basically said anything that ties into Supreme Power, that Squadron Supreme team comes from another Earth in the Marvel multiverse. Meaning that there are multiple Earths out there where you have Squadron Supreme teams out there. And of course, every single one of them is different from each other. Now, with all that being said, though, we have learned the origin of Hyperion. We also learned the origin of Nighthawk, Blur, and also Dr. Spectrum. Now, we're going to see other characters begin to pop up as we cover Volume 2 in today's video and the next one down the road. But also on top of that, I do want to mention one more thing. There are going to be some weird skips in this video. And the reason why, because when it came to Supreme Power and most of the books that tied into Supreme Power, they were basically done by Marvel Max. Now, Marvel Max was a way for Marvel to do more adult comics, which was a great idea. Hey, give adults more comics that were more adult themed. The problem was, though, you did have some naked people in the books. And of course, with this being YouTube, I cannot show those pages off. And so you might see some characters might not actually be seen completely, or some pages could possibly be skipped because of the idea that they're naked a lot in this volume. I mean, a lot, especially the women we're going to see in this book. But either way, though, here is Supreme Power Volume 2, Part 1. Now, before we actually jump into the opening pages of Volume 2, I do want to mention one thing, Mark Milton. Mark Milton is Hyperion. But here's the catch, though. When it comes to Mark Milton, America have basically lied to him, the American government, the military. Because just like Superman, he did crash on Earth, but instead being found by some random people and then being raised by those people, he was captured by the military. But the military has been lying to him, saying that he is from Earth, that he is human, that he is American. In reality, though, he's not. He's from outer space. Now, we have no idea where he's actually from yet, but we get the idea that he's not from Earth, just like Superman. Now, in the earlier chapters of Supreme Power, Mark Milton was the only person out there in the world who had powers. But now you have other characters popping up left and right, like Nighthawk and Blur. Now, with Nighthawk and Blur popping up, it shows Mark Milton, oh my gosh, there are other people out there who are just like me. This is great. I finally have people I can talk to. And so it's Mark Milton realizing that he's not alone out there, even though he felt like he was. Now, in the opening pages of Volume 2, we do see Mark Milton right now going out of his way to basically save people who are trapped in a burning building. Now, this is Mark Milton showing the public that he is a hero, that he kind of likes being a hero. that he likes the idea of helping people out, which honestly is not a bad thing. It's a great thing. But either way, though, it's the public realizing that they have a hero. It's Mark Milton, it's Hyperion, and he's here to protect America and possibly the world down the road. But for right now, it's just America because Mark Milton is technically American military property. Now, we actually do jump over to the General Casey. Now, we have been seeing General Casey in a lot of our videos when it comes to Supreme Power. He was all in Volume 1. He was also in Dr. Spectrum's miniseries. He's been around for a good period of time. But basically, he's the one in charge of military intelligence and the one kind of running Project Hyperion. But right now, you actually have the general being confronted by a guy known as Special Agent Bryce, who works for the NSA. Now, this is Bryce showing that he's very upset with what General Casey has done with Hyperion, because how powerful Hyperion is and how long they had Hyperion under their control, they should have been using Hyperion in different kind of military missions across the world to take care of a lot of different threats. Now, you do have the general basically explain to the NSA agent Bryce that when it comes to Hyperion, yes, he could be used for different kinds of military missions. And matter of fact, he was at first, but once the public got word of him, they had to make sure that he's out there in the eye of the public. Now, luckily for the military, they were able to gain another superpower being, and that would be Dr. Spectrum, Joseph Ledger. Because remember, in Volume 1 and also the miniseries we covered for Dr. Spectrum, basically the military found the crystal that was the power source of the spaceship that had brought Hyperion to Earth. And that crystal was embedded in the hand of Joseph Ledger. Matter of fact, go back and watch Volume 1 of Supreme Power and also the Dr. Spectrum miniseries as well. I'll put a link down below. Now, with all that being said, though, when it comes to Dr. Spectrum, Joseph Ledger, he's basically able to use the crystal's powers for his own personal needs and right now the military needs. And so with Hyperion now being seen by the public because the public found out about him, they're now using Dr. Spectrum to do different blackout missions across the world while Hyperion stays here in America and being the America, perfect child and everything. And so with that is General Casey saying, yes, I understand you're very upset on how we've been running the Hyperion project, but look, we had no choice because if Hyperion goes in any other country and does any kind of blackout missions and he's seen there, they're going to know that it came from America, and that could lead into future wars down the road that we're not trying to have. And so luckily we have Dr. Spectrum out there being the one doing the blackout missions while you have Hyperion here in America. Now, you do have Agent Bryce tell the general that right now the NSA is going to take over Project Hyperion, which means that now the general is no longer in charge of the project. Now, this is going to lead into one of those weird moments I talked about earlier when it comes to this title being a Marvel Max series, meaning that we're going to see some naked women. And so you're going to see a lot of pages skipped for that reason right there. Now, the character we're going to meet is Amphibian. Now, we actually met this character back in Volume 1 because remember, there was a psych patient who was locked away in this ward because basically he watched his wife kill herself. And before the wife had killed herself, she also tried to kill her unborn child. And the reason why, because her and the psych patient, when they were just driving on the road one day, the pregnant lady saw a spaceship fly over her. Of course, that was Hyperion. But then she went into labor. Now, when she gave birth to the child came out completely different. Of course, that was Amphibian. And so what she did was she committed suicide, and the psych patient went so crazy after watching his wife commit suicide that he had basically abandoned the child. And the child just went into the ocean, and that child became Amphibian. Now, Amphibian, because she was left alone at birth, she never learned how to properly talk, how to properly communicate with somebody. And so a lot of times she has no idea what to do when somebody is nearby her. Like, for example, there is a random diver who's kind of struggling. She saves the diver only because she realized the diver is drowning. But when she takes the diver back to her boat, to her boyfriend, the boyfriend does attack her, but the attack could have been stopped if she just said, "Hey, I am Amphibian and I saved this lady who belongs to you. She was drowning." But because she never learned how to speak, of course, she was attacked. And also because she was attacked, she has no idea how to basically work through her emotions. But either way, though, now we see Amphibian. Now, we actually do pick up with Hyperion in China. Now, the reason why he does go to China because he was given a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper gave him a location to go to, and he went there. And of course, he does meet up with somebody from the Chinese government. Now, this is basically this official coming to Hyperion saying, "Hey man, listen, lately there have been a lot of different things, very unnatural things happening around the world. And a lot of those things do tie into politics." Now, this is this random Chinese government official telling Hyperion, "You are not the only one on the American military payroll," meaning that they have someone else who's also special, just like you, but they're using that one for different Black Ops missions. And so it's really more of the Chinese government official saying, honestly, do you realize that you're being controlled, that you're being handled, that you honestly don't have any kind of freedom at all, that really you're just a weapon for the American to use against people like us around the world? And also the other person who they basically have and they're using right now for different missions around the world. You're just a use of them, and that is it. Now, as soon as Hyperion hears that, of course, he does get very upset. And when he does get upset, he basically leaves to go back to America to figure out if what the Chinese government official had just told him is actually true. Now, when Hyperion does arrive back into America, he is confronted by Agent Bryce. Now, this is Agent Bryce basically showing Hyperion that he's very upset with what Hyperion did, which was go to China. Because, of course, Hyperion does not have a passport. On top of that, Hyperion is a military weapon that just went to another country. And with him going to another country without permission, you do have a lot of people and government offices kind of asking, "Hey, why was our secret weapon in another country for? Aren't you in control of him, Agent Bryce?" And so right now, it's Hyperion kind of making Agent Bryce look bad. But either way, though, you do have Hyperion say, "Well, here's the thing, though. If I want to go anywhere in the world, what could you possibly do to stop me?" And we have to realize that America never found a weakness for Hyperion at all yet. So actually, this man is unbeatable. Now, you do have Hyperion basically go to Somalia. Now, Somalia is a country that's right now holding on to some American hostages. Now, these hostages are basically just teenagers who went to that country but now being held as hostages for a political move between the two countries. But of course, America has not taken any kind of steps to actually help those kids out. And so you do have Hyperion say, "Well, fine, I'll go out of my way to basically save those kids." And so you do have Hyperion go out of his way to save those children. But right after he does that, he does see a light. Now, something about this light does call to Hyperion, and he's wondering, okay, what in the world is going on with that light? I should go and investigate it. And so you do have Hyperion fly towards the light, but when he does fly towards the light, that is the moment he is basically slammed right into the ground. He was hit hard by a huge amount of energy. And that is the moment you have Dr. Spectrum appear, aka Joseph Ledger. We're about to have Hyperion fight against Joseph Ledger and see who is actually going to win the battle. Now, getting into the second chapter, we actually do pick up with Hyperion fighting against Dr. Spectrum. Now, when it comes to this battle right here, it does bring up a lot of different things that basically we have to talk about. Like, for example, the reason why Dr. Spectrum is fighting against Hyperion 4. And you do have Dr. Spectrum tell us that the reason why he's here right now is because Hyperion is no longer following orders. He's no longer trying to listen to the military. He has become a person who believes that he has the freedom to do whatever he wants to do because what in the world could basically stop him? And so this is the American government hoping that Dr. Spectrum could be strong enough to actually stop Hyperion. Now, the second thing I do want to talk about is Hyperion actually experiencing pain. Because for Hyperion, he never experienced pain because remember, Hyperion is just like your Marvel Superman. And so he has a very high level of durability. And so with that high level of durability, that means he never actually felt pain before. But with Dr. Spectrum being able to use the crystal powers to basically hurt Hyperion, he's kind of like, wait a second, what's this? That hurt. Is this pain? Like, is this what pain feels like? And he begs Dr. Spectrum to do it again because it's a new experience for Hyperion. Now, after that, you did have Hyperion kind of wonder, okay, why is Dr. Spectrum here for? And so he does ask Hyperion, you do have Hyperion ask Dr. Spectrum a lot of different questions to figure out why in the world Dr. Spectrum is actually here for. But while you have the two characters battle continue on, you do have Hyperion basically being able to break through the force field of Dr. Spectrum to touch the crystal. Now remember, the crystal is or was the power source to Hyperion's spaceship. But we also saw in the miniseries for Dr. Spectrum that the crystal is also holding on to a mission. And it has to give Hyperion the memories or whatever to say, hey, this is your mission. This is why you were brought here to this planet. And so when Hyperion touches the crystal that is embedded in the hand of Joseph Ledger, Dr. Spectrum, you do have Hyperion get a whole lot of different images of different things that he's supposed to do and where he came from. It's kind of like the crystal saying, okay, here is your origin, but also here is your mission. But you didn't have Joseph Ledger just fly away because he realized that he was basically losing the battle. Now, after the battle, you do have Hyperion kind of look around to see what happened when two characters that powerful battle against one another. Well, of course, they do cause a lot of damage to the actual area, where now the area is kind of like a dead zone. A bunch of animals have been killed off. It's very huge. And for Hyperion, he realized, oh my God, this would happen when you have two powerful characters actually battle against one another. Now, you do have Hyperion basically go to a Catholic church. Now, the reason why he's going to this Catholic church is because it's really more of Hyperion needs someone to talk to. And so he does talk to the father of that church. Now, when he does meet up with the father of this church, it's really Hyperion telling the father how he truly feels right now. And what I mean by that is Hyperion telling Gus that he kind of realized a long time ago that the American government, the fake parents, anybody he had basically met who was not a superhero, so like Blur, Nighthawk, and now Dr. Spectrum, that he knows they have been lying to him, that they have been trying to use him. But he was so afraid to actually face the truth that basically he just kept going on. But as the lies just kept stacking up and the lies just kept coming out more and more, is Hyperion's mental state just breaking down. And so you do have the Catholic father ask Hyperion one particular question. What are you going to do with all the information that you have basically learned from the people who have been trying to withhold this information from you? What are you going to do? And you have Hyperion eyes just glow purple, meaning that he's full of rage and he flies away. And we do know where he's actually going to. He's going to meet up with the people who have been lying to him this entire time. Now, as we get into the third chapter, we actually do pick up with General Casey, Dr. Steedman, and also Agent Bryce. Now, they're having a meeting about, of course, Hyperion, because you do have Dr. Steedman tell General Casey and also Agent Bryce that Hyperion is on his way. And when he does come here, nothing in this facility can basically stop him. Now, remember, Dr. Steedman's been a character we have been seeing this entire run of Supreme Power, but also in the Dr. Spectrum miniseries. Now, when it comes to Dr. Steedman, he has been studying both Hyperion and Dr. Spectrum for a very good time. And so he knows that when it comes to Hyperion, Hyperion has been, well, holding back. And now he's no longer holding back. And so you have Dr. Steedman tell Agent Bryce, here's a chart. This chart shows how much damage Hyperion can basically do in a short period of time. In 16.6 days, this man can kill off 1 million people. And that's just in 16 days. Meaning that as that double, of course, the death total will also double as well. But on top of that, that death total will rise even faster because the damage that Hyperion will do across the world will also affect how people will survive. You're basically talking about the idea of a super powerful weapon who can basically wipe out the earth if he decides to actually do it. And so that is the moment you have the general come in and say, this is your fault, Agent Bryce, because you guys felt like we were doing the wrong things when it came to Hyperion, that you guys had to step in, take over, and do what you guys wanted to do, which is use him for different military operations to make him be a weapon more than an actual person. Like, yes, we were doing the same thing, but we had a better way to actually controlling him. But because you guys want to rush him and have him do all these different things across the world for you guys, look what you have done. Now the secrets are out, and now he's coming here, and now there is nothing we can basically do. But that is the moment you do have the general kind of mention that they do have something up their sleeve that could actually stop Hyperion, or possibly stop him. They don't know, but the reason why they had this idea made because even when he was a baby, his skin was very durable. His strength was already there. And they realized that the older he got, the stronger he got. And of course, he was just a baby. And so this is the general saying, listen, we had this planned out for a very long time because we knew this day was going to come sooner or later, and here it comes. So basically, we have to find a way to stop Hyperion, and we have one last trick up our sleeve. Now, you do have Hyperion arrive at the military base. Now, when he does arrive at this military base, it does show that basically right now, nobody can stop him. Nothing can stop him. You have the military just shooting at him, firing missiles, and this man is just walking through all these different kinds of attacks like they're basically nothing to him. And so, of course, you have these guys all like, okay, what can we do here? Because honestly, we were told to hold him off, but we actually can't hold off Hyperion. Like, look how powerful this man actually is. He's just walking through the entire attacks like they're nothing. He rifts the door open to the military base so that he can actually confront General Casey. Now, you do have the general be confronted by Hyperion. Now, as soon as the general is confronted by Hyperion, you do have Hyperion ask the general why. Why did you do all of this? Why did you lie to me? Why not actually work with me so that I could actually be something great for you guys? Because to Hyperion, he feels like if the army, his parents, or his fake parents, whoever, had not lied to him and actually raised him like a regular human boy, even though he has powers, he would still do great things for America. He would still help America out. But now, because he knows that everything was a lie and that basically they were just using him to be a weapon, he's kind of like, that right there hurts me even more, because it shows that you guys would do anything to have the perfect weapon. You would do anything to have that weapon under your control, to take care of your enemies for you and treat that weapon like a weapon. And the problem is, though, I'm not a weapon. I'm a human being. I'm a person. But that is the moment you have the general say, you're not human. You have no rights. You're not from Earth. You're not American. You have no rights at all. So why in the world should we treat you the same like we treat others on this planet? And that right there is very huge, because in DC Comics, when it comes to Superman, he basically talks about the idea of you treat somebody no matter what they are, even if they're from Earth or not. And for Superman, with him not being from Earth, he's definitely, out there trying to spread the words that, hey, you treat aliens the same way you treat people of Earth. But when it comes to this universe, this general, he's showing how people actually think in the real world. It's kind of like, you're an alien. Why in the world should I treat you any kind of way I treat another human being? No. But then you have the general basically tell us what is their secret weapon that they're hoping that could basically stop Hyperion. And what that weapon is basically a bomb. A very, very powerful bomb. So powerful, it is going to leave a crater, a huge crater in the area they're in right now. But they're hoping that this amount of explosives could basically take out Hyperion. Even though that means General Casey will die, for him, this is the only way to stop Hyperion. And so with that, he basically blows up the entire area. And the question we're left with now, did it work? Did he actually stop Hyperion? Except the book ends, or this story ends, with Hyperion showing his heat vision and showing us that he is alive and well. And so what America government thought was the most powerful weapon they had, a bomb, to use against Hyperion, didn't even stop him at all. And that right there is scary. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.